Hi. I recently got a comment asking me recommendations for a person who wants to start reading, a beginner's guide to reading. So I have piled a few of the books that I have read in the beginning of my reading journey. Some not so so early in my journey of reading, but these are some of the books that I would recommend first time readers. I would like to divide them up in novels, in short story collections, romance, drama, even mystery. So if you are interested to start reading and start the habit of reading, actually this coming new year, I think it's a great time to start reading some of these books. So let's begin. The first book that I would like to talk about is The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. One of my really favorite reads, to be honest. Khalid Hosseini writes stories based in Afghanistan, and in this particular book, this is set in 1975 in Afghanistan. He talks about the political climate of Afghanistan, the turmoil in Afghanistan, especially during the Taliban rule and the tyranny of Taliban. But at the heart of the heart, it is a story about two best friends, and Amir and Hassan. Sorry, I was forgetting for a second. Amir and Hassan. And this book, even if you have never visited Afghanistan, would give you this really picturesque scenario of landscape of Afghanistan. Really beautiful land where people are just going about their lives, and people are living their lives in a really brutal regime. But also how we can find light in moments of difficulties. I would highly recommend Khalid Hosseini's The Kite Runner. Another book of Khalid Hosseini that's one of my favorites is A Thousand Splendid Suns. Amazing read. So the first one is this, in fiction. The second one, again, this book was gifted to me by one of my best friends from high school, A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. This is a Swedish book translated into English. Again, a story about love, a story about longing, and it's a story about this old man whose wife dies, and him dealing with the grief of his wife, the loss at the grief of his wife, and the relationship that he forms with his neighbor. So this is quite a cute read, I would say, and each chapter, I kid you not, if one chapter I was laughing, the other chapter I was crying, and it goes back and forth. So it's a beautiful story of this old man called Ove, and I think it's heartwarming, and if you want to start reading, you can pick this book up. It's not too intense. It's quite a heartwarming story. I'm going pretty quickly with these books because I have decided to talk about 20 books. So I don't know why, but this book, the next book that I want to talk about is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy, winner of 1997 Booker Prize. This again is one of the texts actually which is prescribed in most of the Indian universities and even abroad when we are reading Indian English writing. Yeah, Indian English writing. It's quite a canonical book. I actually really like the language of this book. It's quite flowery actually. I cannot write this way, but Roy has a very beautiful knack for writing, I would say. Not just her nonfiction, but even with her fiction. And this is her first piece of fiction. This story is about Rahel and Esther, two fraternal twins and their childhood in Kerala. This book, again, although it's set in this beautiful scenic background of Kerala, it does deal with themes of love, loss, and childhood trauma, childhood, the caste system in India, communism. So it is a simple read, but at the same time, it also deals with a few political aspects of our society. If you want to pick this up, it's a great starter. This is, like I said, it is one of the canonical texts that that is usually prescribed in Indian universities for Indian writing in English. So yeah, Roy is an amazing author. So there are few critics of this book as well, and I would not overlook those, but at the same time, it's a great read that one should know about. Then my next favorite one is Swami and Friends by R.K. Narayan. R.K. Narayan is one of my I think for every author I'm saying that they are my favorite or the books are my favorite, but I genuinely mean that Swami and Friends again was prescribed in my college in my Indian writing in English class, if I'm not wrong, but at the same time I had already read it before that. Swami and Friends. So R.K. Narayan created this magical town, not exactly magical, but a town which does not exist, which is Malgudi, and his stories are based in Malgudi. And Swami and Friends is about these kids, these 10-year-old kids, and especially it talks about human psyche, it talks about children psyche, child psychology. So it's a great read. It is quite sweet and quite heartwarming. Again, it's about the main character Swami and his friends and their anecdotes. So if you want to pick up a light read, a quick read, Swami and Friends will be really fun. Then the next one that I want to talk about is is Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. Here, so Memoirs of a Geisha is of course based in Japan. It talks about it's a Bildungsroman actually, about this young girl who becomes a geisha. Geishas in Japan are performers, although they are not exactly sex workers in Japan, but they do have this reputation of which is equivalent to a sex worker. But again, geishas are performers, they are not sex workers whatsoever. So this story is about this young girl who becomes a geisha later on in her life and falls in love with this man. To be honest, I'm forgetting it a little, but this again is a great insight into Japanese culture, a great insight into child psychology, and the relationship of society to women in that particular society. How are women viewed, how are women viewed in the Japanese culture, and their role in the society. Memoirs of a Geisha is quite actually an intense read, if you can just see. Quite a thick book actually, but it's a page turner for sure, and it does talk about Japan and its socio-political scenario in the 20th century. So if you want to know more about Japan, the geisha culture, lives of women in Japan, at least in the 19th and 20th century, this is a great pick. Next book is Jhumpa Lahari's The Namesake. This is a book. I love Jhumpa Lahari's writing. First of all, I think whatever she writes is amazing. So The Namesake is based in Kolkata, but also mostly in the US. It deals with themes of alienation, nostalgia, living as first generation immigrants in the US, and even second generation immigrant family experience in the US. There's also this movie, this book is also turned into a movie which stars Tabu and Irfan Khan. So the protagonist of this book is Gogol, okay, and he talks about his experience of growing up and as an American. There is a sense of alienation that people feel when they are born, first generation immigrant children, when they are born in a new country. They have this sense of alienation from their birthplace, but also from their parent country. And this is a theme which this is a feeling that Jhumpa Lahiri herself, being a first generation immigrant kid, felt in her childhood. And she beautifully talks about this sense of feeling confused, this sense of feeling alienated from both the cultures, from the parent culture, but also from the culture that one grows up in. So this is a very beautiful and touching story about this one family, where Irfan Khan's character, sorry, I don't know, I keep referring to the movie because I watched it recently. So where this book talks about this sense of loss in the chase of ambition, what one loses and what one gains, and what is the price that we pay for our dreams sometimes. And so yeah, so if you want to read about themes like that, this is The Namesake is a brilliant pick. Okay, so this is the fiction section, novels. Let's talk about some of, again, two more fictions, but these I will put it in the rom-com category, if that even applies in terms of books. But I picked up two of Anuja Chauhan's books actually. I read them when I was in college. Very quick and fun read. The Pricey Thakur Girls and Baz. I think these are also turned into movies. I'm not sure, by Bollywood. These are amazing reads. Super light, super fun. Anuja Chauhan is quite quirky, and that shows in her books and her style of writing. So yeah, there's quite quick and quite easy to read. Pricey Thakur Girls is about 5 sisters who live in Delhi, who grow up in Delhi, and their stories basically. And Baz is about Ishan, who is a pilot, and he is in the Air Force, and it's about his story. It's quite fun. It's quite these two books are quite page turners, and I really enjoyed them. So if you want to read super fun and super light books, romance novels, these two I would highly recommend. Actually, you can pick up any of other Chauhan's books as well. She's quite funny, actually. She's quite humorous. So yeah, so now that we are done with the fiction section, let's move to novels. Sorry, now that we are done with the novels, let's talk about some of the thrillers that I liked. I'm not a thriller girly, but these mystery thriller, these are really good. Sorry. So the first one is Tell Me Your Dreams by Sidney Sheldon. Sidney Sheldon, I think he is an amazing mystery writer. So I have not read extensively, but just a couple of books. There's one more that I read, but I've forgotten it somewhere in my bookshelf. But Tell Me Your Dreams is a psychological thriller. I don't want to talk much about these, but yeah, it's about this one woman who has dreams. I fear that if I talk about this book, I'll actually give some stuff out, so I will not talk much about this book. And yeah, so Sidney Sheldon, you can pick up any of his books and it should be it should be good, but this is one of my favorites. It's quite a page turner, psychological thriller. Yeah. The other one is Gone Girl by Gillian Phil. This again is also turned into a movie. So Gone Girl is about a girl who goes missing. Yeah. And mystery thriller. I couldn't stop reading this book. I finished this in 2 days because I couldn't sleep. This was probably in my high school I picked this up, and quite a page turner. So if you are looking for page turner, since if you are a new reader and you want to want to read some juicy stuff, which makes you want to read more. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Which makes you want to read more. Gone Girl or any mystery thriller, any good mystery thriller can be your first pick actually. I would highly recommend that. The other one is quite a classic, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This one was actually prescribed to us in our college, in my course. Again, a mystery murder thriller. Agatha Christie is one of the classic mystery writers. So yeah, you can start with Agatha Christie. Quite a simple read, but also quite juicy and entertaining. So let's talk about some of the collection of short stories that are easy to read, are digestible, but are also fun, and are quite a few of them are page turners as well. So again, I feel novels are great, but also I do consume a lot of short stories, especially because they are shorter than a novel, so it's quicker for me to finish. And even if I finish one story and not the other 10, I can always go back and read them. So hence I also love, I genuinely love short stories. So the first one is Ismat Chughai's Lifting the Veil. Okay, so this one again has really amazing short stories. Ismat Chughai is an Indian author who wrote in Urdu. She wrote in Urdu and these were translated. Let me see. One of my favorites, The Quilt. Again, The Quilt is quite one of her most famous short stories, which also got her dragged into court for obscenities, but it's one of my favorites and it's quite a fun read. And she is one of the prominent Indian authors, especially during the British era, so quite a classic writer. She talks about and writes about themes of home, themes related to women empowerment, without screaming women empowerment, and she does it really well. Her writing is intricate, her writing is nuanced. Some of the stories that are in this collection are called Genda, The Quilt, The Wedding Suit, Kafir Childhood, The Net, The Mole, The Homemaker, Touch Me Not, Quit India, The Survivor, Sacred Duty, Tiny's Granny, Vocation, All Alone, and some few more. So if you want to pick up stories that talk about the beauty of mundanity in life, Ismat Chughai is a great author. She is one of the early feminist writers of Indian literature. So yeah. The next one is, this is a collection of essays actually by R.K. Narayan. A Writer's Nightmare, Selected Essays 1958 to 1988. Again, Narayan is is again a fabulous English writer, fabulous Indian writer who writes in English, who can capture the essence of the very mundane in a very beautiful and intricate way. These are some of the essays that he wrote, and he writes about his personal experiences. He writes about really mundane stuff like weddings, mathematics, coffee, newspaper, architecture, monkeys. So this collection, again, if you want to pick up something non-fiction, this can be one of your go-tos. Oh, then the next one is Sadat Hasan Manto's Molten Dawn. Again, one of India's prolific Urdu writers. Manto is a writer who, again, like the time that he was born in and the things that he talks about, especially the partition of India and the pain and suffering of people. He captures it really well, especially the partition, especially not just partition as a historical event, but partition as lived by the day-to-day people, by people like you and me at that time in India and in Pakistan. So if you want to read Manto's writing, I think if you want to read about themes like that, themes about the everyday man, themes about pain, themes about suffering, what people actually felt when something so insufferable was happening around them. I do have a few, again, Toba Tek Singh is one of Manto's really famous short stories, which has, I think, also been adapted into plays and even maybe onto screen, if I'm not wrong. Manto, there's also a movie on Manto, I think, called Manto itself. But anyway, so yeah, you can pick up Manto if you are into themes such as that. Manto is really brutal. I will not lie. Manto is really honest. Is brutally honest. He's not brutal. Sorry, I take it back. He is brutally honest with his writing, and that shows. So, yeah, about human existence, about the human experience of being alive, and I think that's very few writers can actually portray that essence of being alive in writing. So, Manto is definitely one of the bravest and most brutally honest writers of his generation. The other one that I want to talk about is Mrs. Funnybones by Twinkle Khanna. Twinkle Khanna writes columns in Hindustan Times, I think, and this is a collection of short stories. She's, again, like super relatable, super quick, and a fun read. I picked this up, I think, in a metro station in Delhi so this is quite a fun read, like about the mundane, about love, about children, about old people, about anything. So yeah, I cannot pinpoint anything in particular because I have forgotten a little, but also I remember really laughing and like underlying things in this book because they were really hilarious. So if you want something quick, fun, and also funny, I think you can start off with Mrs. Funnybones. The next pick is Tales from Firozshah Bagh by Rohinton Mistry. He is a Parsi writer from India, and this collection talks about life in Firozshah Bagh in Bombay. He portrays the lives of people, especially people of the Parsi community, in a really intricate and nuanced manner. I think I'm using these two words a lot today, intricate and nuanced. So the characters in these short stories are all interlinked, although the stories stand alone by themselves, but they are somehow also related. Sometimes they are like recurring in some of the short stories. So even if it's a collection of short stories, some of the characters are repeated, and then you can sort of make a sense out of who is who in this Firozshah Bagh universe. Really awesome read. Swimming Lessons is actually one of my favorites from this collection. It was also in my course. So yeah, a quick and lovely read. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. Again, I have another of R.K. Narayan's Malgudi Days, a collection of stories based in Malgudi about, again, these stories talk about the everyday person, a wife, a mother, a son, a daughter, a grandmother, and a kid that goes to college, a kid that falls in love. So Malgudi encapsulates, R.K. Narayan encapsulates the essence of being ordinary in his writing really amazingly. So you can pick this up. I bought this in high school actually. Then again, Jhumpa Lahiri's Interpreter of Maladis, and absolutely must have if you love reading basically or if you want to get into reading. If a novel is too much for you, you should pick up a short story. Give short stories a chance. Some of the stories that are here are called A Temporary Matter, Mr. Pirzada Came to Dine, Interpreter of Maladis, A Real Darban, my favorite, my absolute favorite, Sexy Mrs. Sen, This Blessed House, The Treatment of Bibi Haldar, The Third and Final Continent. Yes. So again, her stories, these are based mostly in India, in Kolkata, and but also they sometimes do tend to be based in the US, because she sort of is from both the worlds technically. So her stories talk about relationships, about human relationships, about us being in this world, but also being parts of other people's lives. We have our own experiences as humans, of course, but we also play a part in somebody else's life. We also play a role in somebody else's life, and she really brings out the meaty bits of relationships, of human relationships and human interactions. So yeah, especially let's say the story of The Real Darban, where she talks about this old woman who has no history, nobody knows where she came from, but she is this sort of self-appointed, let's say self-appointed sweeper of stairs in a flat, in a really old flat in Kolkata, where she sweeps the stairs of this building, and her relationship with the people in that flat, and how she ages, how the kind of stories that she tells, her relationship with the children of the building. So it's quite touching to see this old woman who is frailing, who has no money to go, who has no money, who has no place to go, but it's her story. So it's about these small and very significant but insignificant relationships of our lives. There's also a story where she talks about relationship between a couple who are going through a rough patch. So yeah, I mean, that's, I think, a horrible explanation but Interpreter of Maladis is a truly really close to my heart. I keep rereading this once in a few years. So yeah, the last piece of short story or collection of writings actually is The Best of Ruskin Bond. This is a collection by Penguin. They have his journal entries, they have these essays by Ruskin Bond, and songs and love poems. Yeah, and abstracts from his some of his novels as well. So yeah, this actually is a signed copy for my brother and me, where Bond actually signed it for me in 2011. This was actually a gift from a person. From a person, from a family friend actually, and I truly cherish this gift. This is one of my most valued, my prized possessions actually, because it was signed by Mr. Bond himself. Bond's writing again is mostly situated in, let's say, Missouri or the hill stations where he lives now, but also some of them are in Delhi where he grows up, in Dehradun. His stories, again, I feel for writers, the stories that I'm most attracted to are the ones that can emulate the mundane in their writing in such a beautiful and romanticized way that it makes you want to read more and know more about life, about people, about imaginary lands, that imaginary relationships, right? I think that's something that I also try to emulate in my own writing. I don't know how far I'm successful, but Bond's writing is has always been very magical for me. You can pick up any of his children's children's books if you'd like, or even adult fiction. It will always leave you with this feeling of nostalgia. I don't know how else to explain this feeling, but you get this feeling of knowing a place for a brief period of time, knowing people for a brief period of time, but actually never having met them, but knowing them through the books by Bond. But it leaves you with the sense of having known them all your life, all their lives. It's very rare for a writer to do that for you, and I think so I have been dreaming of one day going to Missouri. He does sit in a bookstore actually, and he signs. I don't know, on some of these days that I've seen people post on YouTube and even like on newspapers and stuff, he does meet his readers, his fans in Missouri. And the final book that I want to talk about is, this will fall under sort of the self-help category actually, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is a book, Creative Living Beyond Fear. Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. I have not read Eat, Pray, Love yet though. I've only watched the movie, and Julia Roberts does an amazing job. So the big magic, if you are a creative, if you want to start anything actually, if you want to start reading, if you want to start writing, if you want to start creating anything, this will give you the push that you need. Again, this is one of those books that I keep going back to. So Gilbert actually writes about pursuing creativity and what it takes to pursue creativity, the courage, more than courage, it takes perseverance. Creativity needs perseverance and constant pushing of the boundaries by oneself. So I really enjoy, I really find inspiration reading Gilbert's Big Magic. So I think I read, the last time I read it was probably like 4 years ago, and I think I'm ready. I'm ready to go back to it, to not just to inspire me to start writing or start creating, but also to start afresh, especially in this new year. And I think a big magic, if you want to read self-help book, I don't think I enjoy the term self-help or even the genre of self-help, but the big magic is one of my mains that I go back to once in a few years, I think. So yeah, so I hope you pick up some of my recommendations. You can also check out the books by these same authors, their other books as well. I think these authors do provide, like Arundhati Roy, Ruskin Bond, R.K. Narayan, Sidney Sheldon, and yeah, Khalid Hosseini. These are some of the authors that you can go back to over and over again, and each time their stories will tell you something different. But also at the same time, their language is easy to read. Because I feel sometimes what happens is that if the English is difficult for me to read, I don't put too much effort, I get bored. So I rather read something which I can comprehend and understand easily. So these are some of the reads that are quite easy. Then the other thing that I keep in mind is that, in order for me to not get bored, if you are a new reader, you of course don't want to get bored. You want to pick up stories that are beautiful, that are meaty, and are quite often page turners, of course, right? So these stories are definitely page turner stories, where you would want to know what happens next to the characters, where you would want to know what happens next to a place or an animal or a thing, right? Or the trajectory of the stories are quite interesting. So yeah, I hope that your journey of reading begins, and I hope these recommendations are helpful. And yeah, I hope you start I'm hoping a lot, but I still hope that you start reading more books. And yeah, I hope you start reading more books, and I hope these recommendations were helpful for you. Until next time.